Hey guys, this is Crab Hunter, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Woo! And today we're going to have a quick review, if I ever can make anything quick, on the VK3601H. Yes, this lovely Tier 6 beauty from Deutschland. We've returned to Deutschland stuff now. Yay! She follows along the line from the Panzer IV or the VK3001H. Now, for those of you who haven't played World of Tanks or didn't play the older patches on World of Tanks, back in my day, this used to be a medium tank, and she was one of my favourite medium tanks of the game. Unfortunately, for some reason, Wargaming decided to change that with a number of patches and make her into a heavy tank, and as such, a number of stats have been changed. But for the better. Well, hopefully this review will be able to find out. So, let's get ready and have some fun. Here we go. So, hit points. How much do you have? Well, very good amount actually, 950. Certainly useful in Tier 7 matches, or God forbid, even worse case scenario, Tier 8 matches. Let's have a little look-see at how you fare against your counterparts. The Chinese don't have that. The ARL 44 has 820, I believe, so not as good as you, by a long shot. The British, unfortunately, however, being Britain, with their Tier 6 Churchill Mark 7, have 960 when fully upgraded. Unfortunately, I do not own this vehicle, so I can't show it, but it does have 960, which beats you by 10. The American M6 has 840 when fully upgraded, so not as good as you, but still a notable effort. Very good. What about, was that 800 and... Is that the stock value? I'm not too sure. Unfortunately, when you lose a vehicle, I don't know whether the XVM is showing the stats or whether it's not. I don't know if it is. Going on to the Russians, we have obviously the KV-1S, which everyone who plays this game knows has 810 hit points. The KV-2, along with the T-150, who I believe share the same amount of hit points, have 860. So a notable effort, very notable effort, but unfortunately not so good when it comes to facing up against the VK. So you're pretty much on top of the hit point pile, which is very good and very useful, especially, as I said before, especially when you're in low tier in a high tier match. Moving on to weight, you're not exactly the lightest tank around, being at 40 tons, 0.87 tons to be exact. This, in combination with a 500 horsepower engine, gives you 50.5 kilometer per hour speeds. Now, this is pretty good. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the greatest of acceleration power, but actually, can we see the acceleration power? No. But that said, she is relatively fast. I mean, you know, certainly elements of her old medium self are inbound when it comes to just going forward, which is pretty nice. The Traverse, unfortunately, not so good. Not very good at all. But that said, a little bit of clutch braking, 100% crew, and a little tactical mind, you know, should be able to turn this around. But like I said, it's not like you are a heavy tank after all, you know. Especially at Tier 6, you're not going to be a medium tank like it used to be, but certainly not bad for a Tier 6 heavy tank. Now, onto the armor, and you actually have a fairly decent amount of armor, but the only downside is it's very flat. 100 millimeters at the front, 60 to the sides, 60 to the rear. Same for the turret. Well, almost 100 to the front, 80 to the sides, 80 to the rear. Now, of course, with flat armor, this is a bad thing in a sense, and it's also a good thing. Bad because it means now you have to be extra careful when going around corners, as pretty much everywhere, it could be pretty much most, if not everything, will be able to get a shot in and penetrate you. But the good side of this is that it will require you to angle more, and it may even teach you, if you haven't mastered it already, the importance of angling your vehicle and being able to bounce multiple shots. Otherwise, you die very quickly. How much armor do you really have, though? Well, let's go on to Tank Inspector to find out. So, here is the VK3601H in Tank Inspector, and here are the armor values. So let's get started. The top half of the armor values pretty much does what it says on the stats. The frontal sections of the turret and the frontal sections of the hull all are 100 millimeters thick. The centerpiece, this part here of the armor, unfortunately has little to no angling whatsoever, so that it will be only 100 millimeters thick. Luckily for you guys, the machine gun port isn't a weak spot. There's a very tiny weak spot. I actually don't even think there's a weak spot. There's actually some spaced armor there as well, which is pretty cool. But generally speaking, the middle section, completely useless. The other two sections, however, are kind of interesting. First of all, we'll go to the transmission section, which is this little bit here covered by the treads. As this area has a little bit more armor to the lower side, the underglacius, which has a very slight, like maybe even 5 degrees worth of angling, which gives it an extra 30 millimeters worth of armor, which, although in tier 6 matches, anything but, maybe tier 5 matches you might be okay, tier 4 for sure, but certainly a tier 6 match and above, not really much of a consensus, nothing really helpful there, but, certainly it's nice to know that the lower glacis is slightly better off than the top, ironically. And finally, to the north, and finally to the turret with 100 millimeters, you also get the small benefit, the added benefit of a spaced armor at the turret as well, which is at the gun mantlet as well, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, however, with the turret, which I suppose it doesn't matter too much in combat, but it's just to be aware of. The closer they get to the gun itself, the lower the amount of the less armor that you receive towards it. So, for example, if I'm on the outskirts, like the outskirts, say about here, I'm looking at 175, so this thing could take a KV-1S shot. In fact, in other parts, you're looking at over 200 millimeters. Unfortunately, however, as I get closer and closer and closer, right next to the gun mantlet, I've got 100 millimeters as I've run out of hull there, and it's just nothing. It's just nothing there at all. So, definitely be aware of that when hulling down if you do want to try and hull down, though I don't recommend it because most guns will still get through to hit you. Going to the second lowest armor value, the 80 millimeters of armor covers pretty much, once again, the stats on the side of your turret to the rear of your turret, but also on the side of your gun mantlet and your commander's cupola. Unfortunately, with most German tanks, this one not being any exception, the commander's cupola is very visible, even in straight line combat. So if anyone is trying to get a cheap shot into the top half of your turret, the commander's cupola will be at high risk. So do take care for all you guys out there who want to try and hide your commanders. Let's get rid of that for you. Going down to the 60 millimeters on the side and rear, once again, very little angling on the side or the rear. So most, if not everything, will go through you. So watch out for derp guns, especially on the side, because they'll go straight through and potentially one-shot you. Be aware of that. But also, weirdly enough, there are some parts of the 60 millimeters which cover the upper glacis, which from straight on, virtually impossible to penetrate. Actually, no, very unlikely to penetrate. And this underglacis here, which at the front, impossible to pen. Like, just straight on dead like that. Yeah, ricochet or high armor values. However, the upper glacis can be used to a full advantage when going round corners if you're going to angle your tank. Certainly useful indeed to be able. It's certainly useful when it comes to stuff like that. So, yeah, for armor values, that's pretty much it for the VK361H. Really badly armored, but certainly will help teach you the value of angling, and hopefully you'll learn this lesson for when you get to the Tiger, because unfortunately it doesn't really change much. So, let's have a look at view range and signal range. For these two figures on the right-hand side of the base, I'm going to ask you to ignore them because I believe they're part of the XVM mod, so they may not be 100% accurate. So, with regards to the base versions, though, just focus on them. We'll be focusing on them for reviews. So, for view range, with the upgraded turret, you gain 370 meter view range, which is very good for a heavy tank. Very good indeed, especially for a tier 6 heavy tank as well. As for signal range, you get probably one of my favorite upgrades, the Radio Fug 12. It is beautiful. 710 signal range, and a crap ton of tanks are used have this beautiful thing. It's just fantastic. I love it. But let's see how you fare in comparison to your Tier 6 counterparts. So, Les Français, the ARL 44. Oh, wrong one. For view range, it gets 330. So you beat it quite severely by 40 points. And the French get, however, a Tier 10 radio, which beats you by 40 points. So, tit for tat. Unfortunately, they kick your ass quite nasty over there. But still, you know, it could be worse. Could be worse view range than French. Going over to Britain, the Churchill Mark 7. View range-wise has 360, so a very notable effort. Very close, but you'd still beat it by 10 meters range. And the British also gain access to a Tier 8 radio, which gives them 550. So a notable attempt, but unfortunately not quite good enough. Let's have a look at the Americans. Let's have a look-see. M6D2. Very good view range, but unfortunately not a good enough. Only 20 short. But what about the American radio? Well, actually quite poor. It's crap. I'm sorry, it's just crap. 440 gets beaten quite severely by the Zvuk 12. But what about the Russians? They surely haven't got crap view range and crap radios. Oh wait, they do. On all of the Tier 6 heavy tanks, you're looking at 330 meter view range, and for all Tier 6 heavy Russian tanks, you've also got 440 for signal range. So, yeah, Russia does suck quite badly when it comes to that sort of thing. Sorry, Russian lovers, but it's true. Now, onto the guns. And the VK3601H has a very... It's got a bit of a confusing set of guns if you haven't really paid too much attention, or you're still quite a newish player to World of Tanks. So hopefully this little thing should help guide you through. Now, this is kind of a harsh thing, but depending on which tank you're going through will kind of say how you grind through this vehicle. If you went down the heavy line, and went up the VK3001H, you'll have actually researched 3/4 of the weapons on this vehicle already. If you've only gone via the Panzer IV-H, you'll only be using this gun, which is a really disgusting, horrible gun, on the Panzerkampfwagen, on the VK3001H. I wouldn't use this gun ever. But of course, if you've just gotten this vehicle from the Panzer IV, then you'll have to make do and survive for as long as possible. Now, most people who play the VK3601H, as I've seen them, will opt to get this top gun first. And now onto my favourite part of any review, the gun. And the VK3601H has a very interesting selection of weapons. Now, if we go to the research thing, this may be a little while because I'm going to kind of tell you something about this vehicle, and hopefully people who watch this will appreciate this and perhaps change the way they play a bit to help give it extra benefits and perhaps even have a better game for it. Most VK3601H drivers out there will grind through the thing, maybe using the L70, but then get this gun because why not? It's the 88mm. It's the big, nasty tiger gun. You know, it's the thing that everyone feels powerful. I went through and got this gun. I didn't give a crap about other guns. Admittedly, when I was grinding through this, most of these guns weren't available. As I said, I was grinding through this vehicle when this thing was a medium tank. So I started off with the L48, went up towards getting, I think I just grinded through and got this gun. And I wasn't paying too much attention to penetration values or whatever. So this gun, the 88mm there, 8.7 rounds a minute, 132 pen, 220 damage, pretty good, 0.3 accuracy, and a 2.3 second aiming time. This is a powerful gun, the most powerful gun you will find. It's got a tier 7 rating, should be good, right? Wrong. Because the L70, which is one of the guns that you can research, and one of the guns I highly recommend you research if you started off this vehicle with just the L28 from the Panzer IV line. This gun is automatically better in almost every way except one than the 88mm. First of all, better rate of fire. It's a smaller caliber, but you get much better rate of fire. Almost 5 shells more than the 88. Has much better penetration than the 88mm, 12mm to be exact. Even the premium, if you're a gold slugger, is better, but it's pointless because it's tier 6. Why would you need gold unless you're an arsehole? Okay, not as much damage as the L56, but because you're firing it much faster, you can make up for that really quickly, so it kind of beats it in a way. Has much better accuracy than the 0.38, and the only thing that it shares is this 2.3 second aiming time. It's even lighter than the 88, so that can potentially assist you in maneuverability. So let's just put this down towards here and actually show you the gun that I actually use on this thing. The 75mm Wunderwaffe, as I call it, on this gun. I don't know why they've given it such a weird name, but I call it the Wunderwaffe. And it's a very good gun. It has even better rate of fire. Pardon me. It has even better rate of fire than the L70 and L56. It's got more penetration than the L70. Same damage as the L70, but a 0.34 accuracy and and even weighs lighter. 720, almost 1,000 kilograms lighter. In fact, no, over 1,000 kilograms lighter than that. So, whilst everyone thinks that the L56 may be a great gun, it's actually quite crap. And if you are grinding through this vehicle, get this gun first, or if you've already gotten the guns from the VK3001H, you'll be kind of already sorted, because this thing is not only lighter, so you can perhaps mount it and save yourself having to research the tracks first. You could also have the best gun automatically. So for all you guys out there who have gotten the VK from the Panzer IV, research the L70, use the L70 to get the get the Wunderwaffe, and just use that. Ignore the L56. I mean, with that said, the L56 isn't a bad gun in the sense that you can't use it as bad as, like, for example, the L28 derp gun, but it's, with regards to the stats and how it works, it doesn't work as efficiently as it used to, slash, you know, as a heavy tanks gun. Like on the on the medium VK, it was beautiful because you could drive fast and flank around the enemy's tanks to get the low enough armor that you can hit it full rear with the 88mm. But since this became a heavy and became slower, the Wunderwaffe just does it beautifully. Works much better than that, and I highly recommend you use that gun because it just makes the tank so much more effective in combat, and it's a lifesaver, especially when it comes up to dealing with heavier tanks and higher tiers. So, going on to equipment and crew skills, this is basically where I talk about what I would recommend for this tank. Now, I've kind of demounted some stuff and changed some stuff, put it on other tanks, but I've already gotten a few. But here's what I recommend. So first of all, medium caliber gun rammer, regardless, you need it. Second of all, improved ventilation class 3. Once again, you need it. The third option is, as always, up to you, but here's what I recommend. Now, because this thing has a relatively... It's still got the 2.3 second aiming time, maybe getting a enhanced gun laying drive would be a good idea as a number 1 recommendation. But for a number 2 recommendation, a heavy small liner would be a great idea as well, as unfortunately with artillery, they can spam a little bit, and of course, some players out there will be derpers, so to be able to deny them that big fat juicy damage roll will be very nice for you guys out there. Certainly entertaining for me if I could roll that. Going on to crew skills, I think one of my commanders, I must have given him a wrong skill and I just stuck with it. But obviously you want to give your commander Sixth Sense once you've trained a crew, once you've trained a random skill, either repairs, camo, or, well, maybe not camo, but firefighting. Any just random skill that, you know, can be trained, and then get another skill to 40% so that when you swap it out for Sixth Sense, you don't, you know, suffer at the hands of the penalty for dropping a skill. For the gunner, once again, well, for the gunner, snapshot skill, once again, work with that. As soon as you hit 100%, you may want to change it for Deadeye, but you will lose the snapshot, but it's not the worst thing in the world, so definitely swap that out for Deadeye. If you don't want to swap it out, get another skill going, do the same for Deadeye, then afterwards get Designated Target, as it gives you an extra few seconds to knock out your opponent. The driver, undeniably, especially with a very poor traverse speed, get yourself the clutch braking skill. It is immensely important that you do so, as it means that you can maneuver a little faster and perhaps react to something a little quicker. Afterwards, off-road driving will probably be another good skill, as it adds extra maneuverability and acceleration, which could possibly save your life from artillery. Radio operator, you may want to have probably extend signal range for signal boosting if you want to beat the French, but really nothing of use here. Just get himself some repair skills, maybe some firefighting. If you are desperate to have something radio related, perhaps signal boosting or call for vengeance afterwards, but really I would say maybe call for vengeance perhaps if you want to get the scumbag who got you beforehand. Either way, it's not like the most important person in the vehicle. The loader, I've not really suffered too much with ammo racking in this vehicle, so maybe Adrenaline Rush will probably be the more suited role. This basically gives you an extra few seconds, gives you an extra boost in reload skill when your tank is has less than 10% of its hit points left. So, that's about it for the review side of this thing. Let's get into a couple of replays to show how useful the VK3601H is in Tier 6 and 7 matchmaking. So, here we are in-game, and we are in the new 9.1 Comarin, which is pretty darn nice. I really like this one, actually. Well, this one is certainly a new... Oh, hello. Okay, cool. So anyway, so, we are in the new version of Comarin, which looks rather nice. I definitely like it, and I wasn't entirely sure what part of we were in, actually, because I was totally taken by surprise by this really cool thing. So, getting into the replay, I make a rather large mistake of not just charging down into the middle, like I should have done. I take a shot, do some damage, but unfortunately he hits me as well. Not the greatest since I didn't load in too fast, but unfortunately I did make the big-ass mistake of just going into that. So instead I decide just to peg it into the center point, of which 4 enemy heavy tanks, 2 of which are tier 7 and 2 of which are tier 6, were bum rushing towards. So a Churchill 1 and a Panther tank. Not entirely sure why there was tier 5s in this game, but whatever. I suppose worst case scenario for the tier 5s. So the Panther tank and the Churchill tank were both fanatically trying to get out of there as possible. I try and send a message to the Churchill. Unfortunately, he got tracked as soon as I sent it, so sadly he couldn't get out of there in time. He's taking a lot of punishment and does a little bit of damage, but then unfortunately both the Tiger and the Panther get killed. I get a cheeky shot into the T-29. I'll move up slightly, see if I can get a shot in. Try and pull back a bit. Pull forwards again. Now, for some reason in this game, I didn't realize until later on that the T-29 was unupgraded. I kind of thought he was a fully upgraded tank. And trying to get a few cheeky shots in. Enemy T-150 moves up to take a shot. Churchill had a couple of unsuccessful shots. I'm just using the wreck of a KV-1 as cover. Unfortunately, the T-150 gets a shot in, damages my engine, and buggers me up nastily. I move in, get another shot, goes underneath the T-29, which is great. But in this instance, get another shot from the KV T-150. But this main instance really was all about just me trying to spot targets. As both of my teams, if you're looking at the minimap, are slowly but surely winding their way down. I take another nasty hit from the T-150, getting a bit annoyed at the fact that I can't really do anything against him without getting pulverized, but not stupid enough to go out there to get killed. The very useful IS-2 top-tier heavy tank is just sitting there, waiting for the game to be played for him. So, unfortunately, he doesn't really do much in this game, if anything. Sorry for spoilers. T-150 finally does. T-150 throws another nasty shot in play. taking multiple shots. I actually start taking fire from an enemy tier 5 tank, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. I have a lucky bounce. Not entirely sure where that came from. Was kind of focusing more on the center line. I take another lucky bounce to the side, actually, from that little underside there. And then I finally take a shot. And I'm like, right, okay, best back off. Now I realise that there's an enemy Chinukai there, along with a VK. I'm sending a message to the IS-2 saying, come on, mate, just get yourself over here. We need you over here. Enemy Chinukai and our team on the right-hand side decides to finally push up. We're slowly pushing up from the south here. Not much at all, really. I'm not doing too well. Somewhat paranoid about where that T-150 is, because all it would take is one shot and I'm dead. So, being extremely careful, probably being overcautious. Kind of probably could have done with advancing sooner, but at that point I was just plain paranoid. Slowly nudging forwards and nudging as fast as I can with my damaged engine. I spot the T-29, but do not instantly go to shoot him because I want our team to try and spot him and get a shot in. I at first think he's come to spot me, so I'm like, right, okay, he spotted me. Time to back off. He takes a nasty hit. I fire, and he shoots. Bounce. And that's when I realised he wasn't fully upgraded. So a lucky bounce, which actually saved us from getting killed. Enemy T-150 turns out to have been focusing on the southern flank, and that's pretty much the game afterwards. The IS-2 finally decides to show his face after all that time me trying to hold off against 4 tier 6 and 7 heavy tanks. Whilst not really doing much in that game, hopefully what this game could show you is how useful and how effective the high amount of hit points you get for the VK3601H. Because I will say, were it not for if I was driving any other tank, I would have died right about now. I would have easily have died, and that would have been me throughout the game. We got a Mastery Badge 2nd class. Not bad, you know. Did better than most people, which is kind of cool, I guess. Well, at least of those above the 3rd class. Obviously, we got a Steel Wall. I would be a little annoyed if I didn't get Steel Walled. And also, we got Spartan. Yeah, that's... Those two pretty much sum up what I did that whole game. Just was an unmovable block, which was pretty awesome. Now, in the team score, however, despite me only doing a limited amount of damage and a fairly decent amount of spotting, actually, I think probably it was the spotting that helped us out with the experience, we got ourselves into 3rd place next to the platoon of the T-49 and the Chi-Nu. It was pretty good for a... Well, for our first few games, getting back into the VK3601H. So, here we are on the next one, which is Ruinberg on Fire, a Tier 6 encounter match. I will say, I do like the Ruinberg on Fire. I kind of wish I could have a good enough computer to show just how nice she looks, because I reckon with the high quality and everything, she looks absolutely gorgeous. So, our team kind of mostly focuses on pushing in towards the town aspect. I wasn't too sure whether I should push in towards, at this point, whether I should push towards the center line. Ah, look, AMX40. Great matchmaking. Our ELC makes a damn good job in the early stages of the game by highlighting a few of where the enemy tanks were pushing on, which then gave us a good inclination, thanks to the Crusader, also, where the enemy team was going to be focusing their tanks. So, at first I thought the Crusader was going down this road, and I was completely unaware of the KV-1S / Nashorn until one of them missed their shot, and I dodged the other shot with just miraculous. Get a clutch shot in which completely knocks out the enemy tank. I get a lucky ricochet, go for the Crusader, reversing a bit. He takes it on the treads, swing round, KV-1S there, don't really want to push up, so I'll go for this VK3601H instead. He's going to have backup and just about dodges a shot. Enemy now starts to try and cap. I move up forward. Not really doing a good job here. Trying to clutch it a bit. Sort of trying not to let the emotions get ahead of me. I throw a shot in. Bit too late. He moves up. I aim. Another ricochet. Desperate to try not to get hit by him. Fires. He fires and bounces. Lucky ricochet there. He's being backed up by a Jap tank, Cheeto, so got to be careful not to overextend my line. He moves up. I do a clutch shot, but luckily artillery focus in on him, which is a lucky thing. I aim in. Cheeto makes a push. Cheeto aims for the Su-85. Enemy tank decides it, and I start throwing in some good shots to damage him. Cheeto pushes up, do a nice shot, pull back a bit. This is the thing about the tank. This is the good thing about this tank, is that thanks to the gun's fast reload, I can quite happily push forward, pop a shot, and come back. RT tries to go for me, fails miserably. One shot into the Cheeto before he's wrecked by artillery. The VK3601H slowly starting to lose. We are starting to push back. I get a very nice shot into the top of his turret, aiming for his cupola, but anyway, throw another shot into him. Not so lucky on this occasion. Waiting for him to come around the corner. I fire, once again, hits the wrong location. Taking my time. First shot for some reason goes above, and then I have him. Next shot goes in. Fire a next shot. Tracks him, doing lots of damage, and unfortunately he's taken care of then as well, rather annoyingly. So ARL 44 gets taken care of. Lehman Russ decides to pop up, does some damage. Scumbag steals the first bit of damage I suffer through this game. I clutch shot one thing, I aim at the Lehman Russ, a little bit late for his friends, could have really made an impact but was a bit too late. I take my time, hit him on the treads and pen. Move to my right, got to take care of that VK3001P, take care of him, pushes up, KV-1S steals the kill. So not really doing too much damage in these games, unfortunately, but certainly doing a lot with my health and my armor, being able to neutralize a lot of bad guys out there. And that's the whole point with some of these tanks, is it's not about doing the most damage, it's also about trying to make sure that certain areas are holding off by yourself or with a couple of teammates to allow your teammates to move up and capture and win the game. So this game is pretty much over. Enemy scumbags remain. Nowhere for them to jump off cliffs, and now trying to push up towards their spawn, trying to go get them. At first I thought the other team was going to try and just do a cap, but luckily not. And we've only suffered, I've only just noticed this, guys, we've only suffered one casualty this game, so this was a definite white run. Certainly awesome gameplay. Going into the left side, trying to see if I can get the AMX. I was thinking he was just going to hide. I just miss the chance to get a shot in. Unfortunately, though, he dies, and I'm like, oh, for God's sake. There, got him. So, there's the second game of the VK3601H. I've taken a fair amount of punishment, but thanks to a very good amount of hit points and a very good amount of angling, I was able to minimize the damage I took. So, let's go back to the garage for some results. Wow, that was quite a game. Yes, and unsurprisingly, we got a Mastery Badge Ace Tanker. This is actually quite an awesome match. We got 7 spotting accounts of all the different tanks that we spotted, so there's that one. And, okay, it's just all the tanks we spotted. That was pretty awesome. Damage due to me spotting them, 1,120. That's quite freaky. And I damaged 6 enemy modules, especially on that VK3601H. I have to admit, I've been in his position as well, and I know how frustrating it is. But then there is the advantage of what this gun, the gun I have actually on the VK3601H, versus the one that I used to have. That gun is certainly very useful, and it just goes to show how effective it is over the 88. And then as Horn, I'm surprised I knocked his engine out, as well as his tank. The Lehman Russ, I got a good number of shots into, damaged his driver and his track. Sadly, I only could just spot the damn VAMX13AM, which is annoying, but I did get the Crusader. I did get one shot into him before he got absolutely pulverized by other tanks. As for experience, we got the most, which was absolutely awesome. Only a little bit above the M6, but still, pretty awesome game actually. Real good. So yeah, not a bad game at all, especially for a mastery. So, summary time. While I do miss being able to outflank enemy heavy tanks and deal a crap ton of damage to either artillery or the rears of enemy heavy tanks, the VK3601H does suit rather well into her new role, and certainly would be worth a visit by any grinding player wanting to push along towards getting a Tiger tank, and those who just want a decent tier 6 heavy tank which can still go at a relatively good speed and also do a fair amount of damage in the game. And yeah, I will say, driving her again properly and sort of trying to do a review on her has been a rather entertaining business. Unfortunately, she is limited at some points, and there are points where you're like, ah, crap, with the really terribly flat armor. But if you can learn to master the angling of this vehicle, and perhaps use it a little better than I do, then this thing will give you and see you an amazing amount of fun and service. So, that's about it for this review, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, do feel free to let me know in the comment section down below by clicking the like button and, of course, subscribing to the channel. If you yourself are a World of Tanks player or a YouTuber, or a YouTuber who does World of Tanks, if there's any kind of way to improve my overall performance, if I commentated a bit too much here, trying to figure out a way of shortening the video so it doesn't take as long to review it, anything like that at all, feel free to let me know by typing in the comment section of this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. This is Crap Hunter signing out, and I'll catch you next time.